for one thing.
Another thing is people will say, like, I've never experienced God. And I would say, yes, I have. I've had people come up to me and explain circumstances, names, and what's going on in my life when I'm praying. I'm like, what the heck? Literally trying to pee myself. How do I prove that to you, okay? When they give me the names and what my problem is, and I've never talked to that person in my entire life. How do I prove such a thing to you?
Right, and that's the problem. I'm not saying that you can't have a personal experience that is simply impossible to prove. That's just all our personal feelings are like that. We can't prove that we feel a certain way. We just do. But other people can say and do say the same exact thing. People who are Muslim, they say, I can't prove to you, I can't demonstrate to you that I've had this experience with Allah, but I have. So what do you say?
Again, you're talking about the hiddenness of God.
Right. No, I'm talking about conflicting.
Can you repeat that? Because I lagged out. Can you repeat that? You said something about people that are Muslim, and then I lagged out. I didn't hear you.
I said people that are Muslims say the exact same thing that Nightmare was just saying, that they experience God, they experience Allah, and they can't prove it, but they just know it's true. Now, you guys obviously reject those experiences, and they would reject yours. So how does a person like me decide, who hasn't had either experience, which of you is telling the truth? If
Evidence.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Which of us is telling the truth?
So you have to examine both of those worldviews. You shouldn't sit back and be idle.
Well, here's the thing.
Right,
Neff
you need to pursue the evidence.
Neff just said it doesn't even have to do with evidence. Not
I said that's my personal experience.
And ultimately, that's how people
Where in the Quran does it say you have to have a relationship with Allah? Where does it say? How many times does it say that in the Bible?
How is that relevant to whether they actually had they claim they have an experience?
It's very relevant.
Allah.
You just asked what's the difference between the experience from Islam and the experience from Christianity. In the Bible, it tells us you have to have a personal experience with Jesus Christ to go to heaven. Where does it say that in the Quran? Where does it say that?
How is that relevant to whether they had the experience or not?
It is, because it's corroborating evidence. It's called researching somebody's experience.
What is the corroborating evidence?
The corroborating evidence is actually looking at both sides objectively.
What is the corroborating evidence that you had a personal that they did not have a personal experience with Allah?
It's very simple. It's very, very simple. From my worldview, I can explain why somebody had an experience with God and why they're in the wrong religion. But
no. My question was,
if a Muslim has, no, I answered it. I answered it thoroughly for all of the religions of the world. Starts right there in Genesis 11. This is why there are all sorts of religions in the world. My religious experience is backed by something that explains why there are so many religions, but I don't have any. I don't have any other explanations, no corroborating evidence that I could examine. If you look at the Quran, it doesn't tell you why everybody else disagrees. It doesn't tell you that. If you look at Buddhism, it doesn't tell you that either. It just says enlightenment, dharma, follow my karma.
Can I just say something, Nightmare? To the person that was talking earlier, are you aware that it's a fact in history that Jesus Christ was nailed to a cross and crucified? I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's a fact in history, and Muslims deny this to the most core. Do you know why they deny this? Because their whole religion.
The Quran mentions Jesus, and Quran is basically, maybe the Muslims will not call it like that, but I see it as the New Testament. You have the Old Testament, and then you have your Christian New Testament, and then you have the Quran. It was written after the events of Jesus and all of those. So everything that is mentioned in the Old Testament is also supported by the Quran. So if you say the Old Testament says you have to have a relationship with God, well, Muslims say the same thing.
It's not a God,
That's false.
a particular God. Is
Well-
Allah
well-
the same as Yahweh?
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem you run into. You're asking us questions and then asking us to prove them, and I just explained two polemical issues. But
No.
why should I
I
trust
didn't,
you? Where
No.
is that grounded? Tell me where I should trust you on your your atheological background, or agnostic or verificationalism, whatever you stand for. Tell me why I should trust you then. You have a lot more gods to
it's-
disprove than I do.
No. I'm not. Listen. If someone had what they believe to be a personal experience with God, I am not going to tell them no, that couldn't possibly be the case. You didn't have that experience. I'm not you. I don't know what you experienced. I can't say that. But for you to be able to persuade others, you're going to need to do a lot more than just appeal to some personal experience. So, Mike, again, but back to my question.
I agree, but that's personal experience that you're just explaining to me. That's your personal experience, just like mine.
what
It's
I
called a
wanna know
properly
is
basic
how-
belief.
What corroborating evidence do you have that the Muslim belief in Allah, or whatever, their experience of Allah, is wrong? Like, they didn't have that experience.
It's very simple. I was praying to Jesus Christ when I was praying in a Christian church, and somebody who I've never met comes up and explains my entire situation, the names, the amounts, all the details. Never met this person before in a Christian church. Okay? So then I look at that and I reflect upon that, and the corroborating evidence is, well, I was praying to Jesus Christ about this issue, which got resolved, by the way, or I wouldn't be here now. So then, if I'm praying for Jesus, if I'm praying to Jesus Christ, obviously, the Muslims are going to disagree. Their canon is closed in 632 A.D. I mean, they didn't even have any information. Muhammad had no information about Jesus Christ.
Yes, he did.
At all.
He even mentioned in the Quran.
That's the corroborating evidence.
So what leads you to believe? So it's basically just happenstance. You happen to be in a church when you were praying in a particular church, and it came true. So that is your evidence that this particular religion practiced by this church
Sure.
is the correct one.
Nightmare, here.
Right, and
Okay,
what's
you
your
don't see any
evidence?
problem with that
Let me
reasoning.
show you a problem
What-
with that. Nightmare, let me, if I can.
No, not
ask
at
you-
all.
Okay.
What is your reasoning for your experience?
Nightmare, let me try to ask you this question, okay? You believe that God is good, just, honest, and all of those things. Would you assume that God would help non-Christians as well? I mean, is he just helping Christians, or is he also kind enough to help non-Christians?
No, he doesn't. Why would he help someone that doesn't believe in him?
Because he's kind, nice, just, and all of those things.
That has what do you? I don't understand what that has to do with anything. Why would he help someone that doesn't believe in him? If I don't believe in you, Eyal, why would you lend out a hand for me?
Because
That is so.
Right.
That is
Exactly.
the.
if I walk down the street or on a bridge and I see you hanging by your fingers, almost falling to your death, I will try to pull you in, even if I don't know you, because I care about you and I assume that you believe in a caring God that would help other people.
I personally believe God does good things for just about everyone,
Okay.
if not everyone.
So you see, even amongst Christians, you guys can't agree, and this is the problem.
Well, okay. No, it's not a problem. No,
Let me-
it's not a problem. Listen, here's what I think. Here's what I think. I think God does good things for virtually everyone in the world. It may not be the good things that you think would be justified that they should have. Okay.
Okay, well, let
I
me-
think
let me
there.
res-
I think I personally think that there. Wait a second, y'all. Everybody get off the mic, please. I'm echoing for just a second. I personally think that there are millions of people in Africa that have a bowl of rice to eat right now because God is gracious. I don't believe that means that God is only helping some people. I think that there is something to it. I don't think that God is saying this person's going to get this amount of rice and that person's going to get that amount of rice. I'm saying that these things happen to help feed starving people because God exists. Okay, because God takes an action in this world in some way or another. I think that something bad that happens, you can't say, okay, well, God necessarily is the cause of the bad thing. Bad things happen. Doesn't mean that God did everything that's bad. It just means that I'm just saying God does good things, okay, for various people. Look at here's an example. King Solomon was made the wisest man on the earth. Okay, somebody get off the mic for a second, please. I don't want to echo. God made King Solomon the wisest man on the earth. He gave him abundant riches. He was filthy, stinking rich. His palace was covered with gold. Okay, he was so wise that the Queen of Sheba came to see him and listen to his wisdom. Okay, kings from around the world came to see him and listen to his wisdom. They sit in his court and listen to him speak philosophically and explain things about God and the world, and they sat and listened. Okay, all right. God gave him what he asked for. Lord, give me wisdom and help me to come above, make me a king and do these things. All right, God gave it to him. But what did he do with that? Well, he turned around and got whole gobs of concubines, got consumed with sexual lust, and turned his eyes away from God, among probably other things, right? He got power hungry, filled with lust, and turned his eyes from God. Okay, so what did the bad things that happened to him later? Were they a result of God having done something good for him? No, God just did the good for him. He did the bad. Okay, so bad things happen in this world doesn't mean that God caused them. But I believe that in some way God does good things for I might be other people might not agree with me, and I'll admit I might even be wrong. But I personally believe God does good things for virtually everyone in this world. I believe that there are people who will never know God, and God has done something good for them, even if it's something small. Just because he's gracious, you know, he might have caused that guy in Spain that was riding that motorcycle and were coming up around that curve and would have hit that car head on because that guy was drunk. Might have caused that car to blow out a tire and stop in the side of the road 60 seconds before that biker came around there because God said, you know what, I'm gonna give you a little slack today, pal, because I'm gracious. I love you. I think God has done lots of things like that, and not just people who believe in him. I could be wrong. You may not agree with me. That's my opinion.
Okay, so now let me get back to me.
Okay, to respond to Nightmare...
come on, let me just finish this, okay? So some of you at least believe that God will help non-believers or believers of other faiths as well. So let's suppose some kind of a Greek pagan somewhere is praying for Zeus to help him sort out some kind of a problem in his life, and God decides to help him, not because he's Zeus, but because he's kind. And then that person, is having his problem sorted out, similar to the way Nightmare's problem was sorted out, thinks to attribute that problem solving to the God he was praying for. He was praying for Zeus, and now he believes that Zeus is the one that solved his problem. So Nightmare, likewise, some God solved your problem. How do you know it was the God you were praying for and not some other kind deity?
That's exactly right. Let me just add to that.
It's very simple.
Let me just add to that. So it's kind of like
Jesus.
if I cross my fingers.
I didn't pray to Zeus. I didn't pray to Buddha. I didn't pray to Romulus. I didn't pray to Mithra. I prayed to Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Yeah, but the flying
Nightmare, you're not
And
getting
then
the
that
problem that he's presenting. So let me give you another example. If I cross my, like, a lot of times I'm superstitious and I'll cross my fingers when I want something to happen, right? Now, if something happens to come true while I'm crossing my fingers or wearing my lucky hat or my lucky belt, whatever, and it comes true, does that give me a rational basis for believing?
Okay, you tell me when somebody comes in while you're praying to Jesus Christ and explains 5 names to you, dollar amounts, drug problems, the weight of the drugs. I mean, there's so many variables. It's just off the wall.
Yeah, thanks for getting
You
on
tell
to
me how you would respond.
I don't even know
I
your
mean,
story.
literally.
I've heard little tidbits,
Right.
but why don't you?
Well, that is the story. But I was just leaving. I have to go for 15 minutes. But there's just too many things, dude. I mean, I
Nightmare, but
literally
see, this
wanted
is the
to pee
problem.
myself.
The-
I wanted to
my-
pee
my
myself.
prob-
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like me coming into this room and saying, there's going to be a nuclear, disaster tomorrow, and this person is going to be responsible for it, and because this person and that person disagreed, this is the dispute, and this is what caused it, and then it happens tomorrow.
Okay, Nightmare. So I'm going to grant you, for the sake of argument, that what you experienced was God, and that is what allowed you to really believe in Christianity. So you have that evidence there. Now, my question, which goes back to what I asked Neff before, is why don't all of us have experiences like yours that give us unequivocal proof that God exists? Why do some of us get left out in the dark? Like Neff had personal experiences. All these people that believe so vehemently all have had a personal experience.
Because you don't open your heart and have an open mind to it. That's why. Because you're too
is that what
stubborn
it
to
is?
understand
Well,
that there's a
no.
higher being than you.
So the babies
Well, that's
that
partially
get roasted in a microwave,
Hold on.
they were
Are going to
somehow...
heaven. Are going to heaven. Are going to heaven.
It's partially true what Just Juiced is saying. See, at the time, I didn't believe in Jesus Christ. I was a complete rebel. I was like, yeah, F you God and all that. And I was literally living that out for 8 years. But when it came time when it mattered and I went in there and I prayed that prayer, that's what happened. So it was extremely significant to me. I spent 10 years growing up as a Christian. Then I spent 10 years as a rebel, as a unbeliever, somebody who just said, to hell with you, God. and that was the result that I just shared with you. It's profound, and I understand what you're asking. Why don't we all experience that? And I would say, in that circumstance, it's because there's no guarantee. It wouldn't be called. It wouldn't be called an encounter with God or a miracle if every one of us just suddenly, came to the realization that, God exists. It wouldn't be called a miracle.
You had a
or an
miracle.
Experience.
You had a miracle that's going
Right,
to allow you to
But
live in
there's no
heaven.
guarantee.
There's
But
no
the
guarantee
rest
for
of
what,
us
Nightmare?
are screwed.
There is no guarantee that the rest of anybody, even if that is the case, even if God appears as the jolly green giant and is stomping the buildings in your retro area, there's no guarantee you would still be going, oh my gosh, this is unreal. There's no guarantee.
I
in the same way
am one compelling
Hold on.
personal experience away from believing in God, just as you do. I simply have
Right.
never had one.
Right. I think that's perfectly healthy.
Yeah,
But
but
I'm
I
going
think
to the
it's
store.
unfair that I am doomed to either hell or, as Neff believes, just non-existence.
Right.
Whereas
Right, but that's
other people.
that's another issue though. I have to go. Somebody else
Okay,
can
see
probably
you in a
pick up
few
on
minutes.
that.
I want to show you something. This Galatians 6:10. As we believe, therefore, have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them that are in the household of faith. This is from the Bible. The Bible, the words of the Bible, which the authors wrote down, were inspired. This is God explaining His character through Christians When a Christian writes, when an author in the Bible writes that we should do these things, whatnot, it's because this is the character of God that's being reflected. You see, God feels the same way. That's why they write what they wrote, right? So here you might as well read this as if it were coming out of the mouth of God. Okay, let us do good unto all men. Okay, especially unto them who are of a household of faith. Okay, so God provides favor. It gives favor to those who believe in Him. He's willing to do more because they have faith in Him. Okay, but God is telling us here that He's willing and does do good things to all men. See, so there are people around the world that have had blessings, however small and seemingly insignificant, or however great. God has been good to everyone in the world in some way. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Because God is great. He's good. He's full of love.
You leave out all the carnage that's going on in the world, the deadly bacteria.
That's man doing it. God not doing it. Man.
Deadly bacteria. God is causing
the flood of Noah.
Bacteria.
The God of the flood of Noah has caused change to the atmosphere, which causes pathogenic organisms to turn pathogenic when they were not before the flood.
So a Tyrannosaurus Rex, they were what, vegetarians before the fall?
Possibly. I don't know. The evidence is shaky on that. There's evidence that may be so, and there's evidence that suggests it may not be so.
What evidence does
Such
it
as,
may be so?
well, all the teeth of a T-Rex except for the front canines were only rooted in its gums about 2 inches.
No.
And if yes.
No.
And it
Take a look at the pictures of them.
No.
Of fully formed teeth.
I've looked at it. I've looked at the evidence. Okay.
I'll look up a picture for you.
So okay, no, I've seen pictures. I've seen dozens
The
of
root
pictures
is
of
longer than
T-Rex
the teeth
teeth.
itself.
No. That's
Yes.
not true. No.
Yes, I'll
only
get
on
a
the
picture
front
for you.
teeth. Only on the front teeth. Okay.
No.
So all those muscles,
Yes.
all that strength, all those muscles, those humongous.
I'm not saying
legs,
that T-Rex was an
that
herbivore.
is to
Okay.
graze.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there is evidence that suggests it's possible. Okay? I said it's sketchy. That's the first thing I said. Immediately you're jumping on what I said could be evidence that T-Rex was a herbivore and trying to paint me as one who believes he was. All right? I didn't say that.
Okay, well, let's assume it wasn't. Let's assume it wasn't. You said so. You're saying that's possible. It wasn't, right?
It's possible
So
it
if
was a
that's-
carnivore.
Okay. Now, does that seem perfect to you? That an animal would tear another living animal to pieces alive and eat it.
Fair
Is
enough,
that a
fair enough.
perfect design?
Well, I'm not sure that that's an argument against anything.
That's not a paradise, Neff. I'm sorry. Animals
Animals
eating,
weren't
consuming
created
each other.
to be man. You know, we are not animals. We may have warm blood and the features of mammals. That doesn't mean we're animal. We're above animal. We're something superior, separate from the animal kingdom. We're mankind.
That is quite debatable, but I guess my question is, we're talking about perfection here, okay? To me, it seems a little more perfect.
This comes
to
down to
have
your
it so
opinion
that-
of what's perfect.
No, it's
See?
not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of common sense.
Yeah,
Harm matters.
it is.
Suffering
No.
matters, even of animals. It matters. So
No.
eliminating suffering is better
In your
than
opinion.
having suffering. In my opinion. So you're saying that eliminating suffering is
what suffering of what?
as being a
Man
good
or an
thing.
animal?
Of anything.
I've
better
already
to have a
acknowledged
world
that I don't
without
know.
suffering.
I've already acknowledged that I don't know the answer to that. Okay, that maybe animals were, or maybe weren't. They were not carnivorous before the flood. I'm not. The jury's not in for me on that.
Well,
I'm not convinced either way yet.
For the sake
I've
of
seen arguments
let's-
from both sides.
For the sake of argument, let's just assume that they're carnivorous. You said it's possible, and I'm saying that would fly in the face of this so-called paradise, this perfection. You
I
said
can't hear you, Sharon. Hang on for just 1 second. I'll be back in just a moment. Somebody called me.
Okay. Go ahead, Nightmare.
Creationist.
Well, I would respond by saying that isn't it at least plausible that the suffering that's contained in this world is to help to appreciate, from a Christian perspective, the non-suffering. Certain things like patience and tolerance and those sorts of virtues can only be they can only be realized in this environment, and then that would make the afterlife, the environment in heaven, much more much more worthy after the fact.
If there would be no suffering on earth, then how could you tell people, oh, in hell you're going to suffer? Well, you need a little bit of suffering on earth so people would get a taste of hell, so people would want to get away from it. So yeah, there you go. That's an explanation.
This is silly. You don't have this in heaven, do you?
Isn't it at least plausible?
No, it's not. It's okay, fine. Well, if anything's possible.
No, it is plausible.
It's certainly not probable. Yeah, anything's possible.
You can only gain patience. You can only gain things like patience here, because this is a finite universe, right?
In heaven, do you have animals being consumed this way?
Right. No, I'm not dealing with heaven. I'm dealing with...
I'm just asking hypothetically.
Now, before
in this heaven, in heaven, is there this kind of carnage?
Oh, absolutely. You can't call it carnage unless you have an idea of carnage here in a finite universe. You can't take something that's tense-based and compare it to something that is eternal without using anthropomorphology. It just doesn't work.
So you said yes,
and that's what I was proposing to you. I was proposing to you that it's at least plausible that in heaven, the only way we can come to the realization of things like patience and virtue and tolerance and justice and suffering, even the only way we can come to the realization of the complete opposites is if we are prepared in this finite state where we're at. It's at least plausible to say that.
Yeah,
plausible, but not probable.
The thing is, he asked you, do you think animals in heaven eat each other? Or even are there animals in heaven?
Alright. No, I'm not
I
going
don't
to
think the Bible states. Yeah, I don't think the Bible states, so I don't think that we can speculate on that.
I just find it baffling that you would be so quick to dismiss the suffering of animals like that. That it's just
I'm not dismissing anything. I'm an animal lover. I can't stand to see an animal suffer.
Well, Nightmare just tried to justify it by saying it's some sort of, it gives us some sort of moral lesson.
No, I was trying.
But no, we can derive a moral lesson from it. It's what he's trying to help you see.
Well,
I could see that right off the bat.
Right.
And we could be instilled with that type. Okay, here, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Okay, right now I do not have the free will to chop off my own. Can someone mute their mic? Can someone mute their mic?
Sorry, it's me.
Okay. Right now, you guys keep saying that this is going to affect our free will if we're inhibited too much. Well, right now, I don't have the free will to chop off my own leg, or I have an inhibition, a built-in inhibition, a self-preservation mechanism that
you have the free will. You don't have the inclination.
Yeah, I have the. Yeah, right. I don't have the inclination to actually chop off my own leg. Okay, and my own arm. Now, so I don't have perfect free will. Like I am free to do whatever. Like there are inhibitions in me. So why is it that we don't have those same inhibitions for inflicting harm on others, like chopping the, hitting someone else in the face, like hitting myself in the face, or chopping someone else's arm off, or whatever? So I don't have right now with my thought, I can't kill all of you. Like I can't just like by thinking it, obliterate every Christian on the planet. I don't have that. Even though I might have the will to do that, the desire to do that, I don't have the free will to do that. So you see, we're already limited. So my question is, why not, if I'm creating this universe, and I want it to be perfect, why not create creatures so that they...
mistake right there.
Go ahead.
Why would God want the universe to be perfect?
Oh, you don't think he wants the universe perfect?
No, I don't. I don't think he intended it to be perfect. I think he created it so that it was good. I think he intended the universe to be good, which was either perfect or nearly perfect in the beginning, knowing that it was going to become non-perfect when he withdrew his hand from it, stopped sustaining it, and caused a flood and whatnot, because he knew man was going to sin. All right. So your argument really is based on this idea that God should have made the earth and the universe perfect from beginning to end. God never intended that, because well, he created it with that premise, but knowing that it was going to fall apart by necessity. So your argument is based on, well, why isn't the earth perfect now? Well, there's a perfectly good explanation. Sin entered the world, and God took action against it.
No, I'll explain what I base my belief of that expectation on. My expectation is based on this definition of God as being omnibenevolent. There's certain expectations that come from that.
But God doesn't say he's omnibenevolent.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine then.
No, God is not all-loving.
Okay. All right.
No, he's not. God loves everyone.
Love.
Yeah.
It's different. The problem is I don't understand this where people say, well, what if, it could happen over here, and then I could just say, well, Derp can do it better, Ayal can do it better, Colin can do it better, Neff could do it better, Zombie can do it better, and the list
God
goes
can do
on.
it best.
It's not a solution.
And God can do it best.
Right, exactly.
And this is not best.
We wouldn't even be discussing this.
And this is not best. That's the point. The fact that I can do better and you can do better and some other person can do better than me.
Right. Can you write
God
cuneiform?
is supposedly.
Can you write cuneiform? I bet somebody in the 1st century could write cuneiform better than you. It doesn't work that way.
Well, if I had God's power and knowledge, I would have done a better job than him.
Anyhow. Anyhow, I have to go.
Of course,
you guys are completely inconsistent even between each other. Neff just said that the world is not perfect, okay? And then
of course not.
That other guy was trying to say that it is, but we just can't. We don't know it. Like, it's not apparent.
No, I think what he's trying. He's talking about. Yeah, he's talking. Yeah, and he's talking about God's plan is perfect, knowing perfect within imperfection. The plan is perfect in a world that is imperfect.
And that you don't see that as incoherent. So I'm going to create a perfect imperfect plan.
Let me see it like this, okay? When you're hold on, everybody get off the mic a sec. I don't want to echo. When you're capable of knowing all things, seeing the future, and declaring the end from the beginning, and have the kind of power and knowledge of God, then maybe you'll understand how God's plan is perfect, while the world is not. See,
Neff, given that idea, I'm curious, okay? Is your idea of God even falsifiable? Because let's suppose right now, God comes down and just starts slaughtering people, just children, just massacring them in the most horrific way.
Why would we suppose that?
I'm just saying. Like, let's.
Well, no.
How would you distinguish
making a fallacious
that?
argument.
Wait.
Why would we suppose that when the evidence from God is that God wouldn't do such a thing because He's too compassionate to do
We
that?
have seen Him doing it in the Old Testament, but let's just say for the sake of
argument, because the world has not achieved the level of evil. Every heart of every man has not achieved the level of wickedness that it did in the day before the flood.
All right, my point is that if he did come down to do that, you could still make that same argument that, well, we can't say that this is necessarily evil what he's doing because there might be a grand plan and all this. So my point is that it's not a falsifiable claim. No matter what he does, even if he does things that are on the face of it are absolutely evil and horrendous, you could still say, no, that's in the name of benevolence somehow.
Okay, you're asking a question that how is God? Can God be falsifiable? You're trying to squeeze God through the scientific method, right?
I'm just
saying.
You
want to know how God is falsifiable?
No, I'm just talking about this particular case. So this thing about an omnibenevolent God. Well, you said he's not, but other people do. They claim that he's all good or whatever.
Well, he is all good, but doesn't love everything. So
how would you distinguish God? How would you distinguish God, a good God, from an evil God? Is that even possible?
First off, there's only one God. There are false gods, and these are the angels God cast out of heaven, and they've set themselves up as gods and have beguiled half of the world into believe that they're worshiping a God when they're actually talking to an angel. Okay, But I would say the one that has truth is the good God, and one that has deception is the bad God.
Well, I don't see what the truth has to do with
Not
it. The
God,
devil,
rather. It's not
if
God.
the devil can tell you all true things and still
I won't lie
commit
to you,
horrific
though.
acts.
God doesn't bring the whole world under a lie. He doesn't believe. He doesn't. That's the work of the angels that were cast from heaven. Okay.
My point is that you can't tell a good God. You
pantheon.
can't tell if Yahweh is an evil God by looking at his deeds, because no matter what he does, by definition, you're going to say it's for the greater good. There is nothing that he can do can prove to you that he's not a good God. Right?
Funny that you said that, because I just looked at a passage in the Bible that states that very thing. Yeah, all things work to the benefit of God and those who love Him. That is true. So, but what you're trying to do is paint God as evil, because God allows evil things to take place in the world.
No, I'm just saying that is possible. You're saying it's not possible because you're just asserting that he is omnibenevolent or whatever. He's good because the Bible says he's good. But what if it's all a deception by God and he's actually an evil God? How would you? Is there any way for you to know that? Is there anything that he could do to prove to you that this is actually an evil God and not a good God? Seems like you're saying no.
He's talking about angels, so talk his language.
I would have to say no based on my personal experience with God.
Is there anything
and what I know about Him, what He reveals to us about His Word. How could God? The premise is false in the beginning. Before you make it, the premise is false because God would not do something that would cause me to believe He's evil.
Good God
now, if you look
that.
at God, right? If you look at God, what God has done, and perceive it as evil, then that's because you don't have a relationship with God. You don't want a relationship with God. Maybe you're not inclined to love God or want to have a relationship with God. You're inclined to reject Him. It's in your heart, and your heart is to saying, "I don't like what God has done."
No,
but from a Christian's perspective, my inclination is to believe it's not possible for God to demonstrate to me He's evil.
Nev, you don't get it. If, for example, an evil angel, fallen angel, whatever, comes from the sky and starts, I don't know, walking down the streets claiming he is God. Obviously, you believe that fallen angels will claim that they are God. How would you be able to tell that this is a fallen angel and not God? What thing would that angel do that would prove to you, okay, there you go, he failed at that, so now we know it's a fallen angel and not God?
Well, I guess he would have to do something to me that contradicts what I believe in my heart to be true.
And if he doesn't?
And good.
And if he doesn't? If he does something and say, hey, that was not good to me, and he tells it, no, that is part of the big plan, because now you...
Well, see, then you get into the problem of perceptions and personal opinions, you see. And I admit fully that means that I have my opinion because I believe in God. That's why I believe the way I do. And maybe you're inclined to believe the way you do because you don't have a relationship with God, don't want to have a relationship with God, don't love Him. See, you're seeing God's acts of justice as evil because that's where your heart is. See, I'm seeing God.
I'm going to spell it out in a little more logic way. You draw your hand and say, I am against God, right?
No.
And God has written from the beginning of time that He will destroy those who are against Him. So you see this as, well, I've chosen the stance that I'm against God, and God's going to destroy me, therefore God is an evil God.
No.
Okay. If you come to my house, I'm going to make a statement now. Anyone who comes to my house and seeks to harm my children is good as dead. I will feed you to my pit bulls. Right? So you plan to come to my house, but because I've already stated this in advance, I'm evil. It's you who are coming to my house,
but if
planning to hurt my missus and my children.
Yeah, but let me show you where your metaphor breaks. If, for example, I come to your house...
That's a very good point, Rusty.
No, let me tell you where it's wrong. If, for example, I plan to come to your house and to give you and your children sweets, okay? I don't see that as hurting, but you might have a twisted view of how sweets will hurt their teeth, and therefore what I'm planning to do will hurt your children, and therefore you decide to shoot me.
We're not talking about whether
Yes,
you're
we
coming
are.
to my house to
We are
thing.
talking about how we interpret reality, and you might
Don't
interpret
twist it.
reality in
Don't
one
twist
way.
it. You are twisting and playing with words. All right? I said I'm going to put a notice on my front that says, if you come to my house and with intentions to harm my missus and children, I will feed you to my dogs.
What if I come to
Do
your
not
place?
twist what I said.
Okay, not with
You-
intentions to harm, but you misinterpret my intentions as harmful, and therefore I talk to the government and police and say, hey, listen, this guy is
Platinum
crazy.
Angel.
He thinks every time I look at him, I'm putting some kind of a spell on him, and he's going to shoot me because he thinks I'm hurting his children. Please arrest him.
Okay, you've twisted what I said, but I'm going to go into your little thing with you and hopefully draw you out of it. But I don't think that's possible because you are happy to deceive yourself, right? If I don't want you giving sugar and candy to my children, that is my right. And for you to seek people who are going to use force against me so that you can feed my children sweets. Do you see where I'm going? I'm not stepping out of the realms of religion now, and I'm going into the political and legal arena, right? What gives you the right to use force against me if I don't want my children to have sweets? You are the psychopath in this situation.
No, you're the one that's threatening to kill me because I'm a nice neighbor to giving you a cake on, I don't know, Christmas Eve.
It is my right not to want your cake.
Yeah, but it's not your right to shoot me for offering it.
Why would you
Okay,
shoot
you've
you
gone off in the,
for giving
you've
him
gone off
cake?
in the lands of
Yeah.
I fail to see how this has answered anything. Maybe you want. Is that really the extent
No,
of your evidence that?
Let's go back to the original point I was making, right? God declared at the beginning of time that he would destroy those who were against him. You have chosen to be against him, and therefore now you read over his declaration that he would destroy, so therefore it is God who is evil.
I am not saying that God is evil or not. That is not what we're discussing here. I asked Neph a question. How would you distinguish God from an evil God? He said there is no way. Do you agree with him or not?
No, I didn't say there is no way.
No, I don't.
I said that if God, if who I'm praying to and worshiping did something that I felt in my heart was evil, then I would be inclined to believe that there'd be a problem there, you know. But see, I don't believe that's possible with the God I know. I know it's not possible.
So
God's
killing
never going to
everything
tell
on
me
the
to
planet.
God's never going to tell me to do something evil. Never. God scolds me when I do something he thinks is evil. I've felt God scold me more than once.
So Hitler is evil for killing 6 million Jews, but God killing everything on the planet is not. Is all good.
What you're doing now is saying the evil doesn't require justice.
So everything in the world, including animals, are evil?
The difference being that none of Hitler's victims deserved it, or if any of them, very few and purely by coincidence.
Hitler believed they did. Just like God
That's a good
believes,
point, Puppy.
the ones that died in the flood deserve to die in the flood.
So
Well, they
all
rejected
the
God.
babies, all the children, all the animals were somehow wicked when God flooded the entire planet.
Well, considering
Yes.
at least half of, or to most of them were demons, or were half demon, they were Nephilims. That's where Nephilimfree got his name from. Considering that half of them were Nephilim, at least half of them, probably a lot more. I'd say a demonic half-breed such as that would certainly be worthy of death, at least within the context of the narrative.
Let me say this, interject for like just 10 seconds, and I'm not sure I'm addressing the conversation at all. For me, I hear these debates, I sort of, sometimes I refer to them as the mob boss argument. And I'm under the impression like I have to be shown evidence of a personal God. I try to distinguish between that and deism first, and then I'm able to quibble over the details later. That's just me, and you know, so like Neff's personal experience or Rusted's personal experience, it doesn't necessarily work for me. But it's almost to me like arguing over the evil characters in Harry Potter, you know, whether or not they were really good or what they commanded, you know, it sort of turns into that, but go ahead, that's all I want to say.
I agree a bit. It's nice to humor these conversations.
Also, I should point out that this is, let's say God was as evil as Hitler. Well, the fact that Hitler was evil doesn't automatically mean that Hitler did not exist. So really, the argument that God is evil has nothing to do with God's existence.
Actually, it does.
I just see it as I'm defending the integrity of a friend of mine.
I will explain why it does. It's a logical contradiction with omnibenevolence. If you don't define him as omnibenevolent, then you're right, it doesn't.
But we don't. God doesn't love all things.
Okay, then you're right.
He hates sin. God hates sin.
God hates death.
Omnibenevolent would mean God's everything and all people. God doesn't. He hates sin.
There are many things that God hates. There's a list somewhere in Proverbs, I think it is. I think it's 6 things that the Lord does hate. Among them are a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood.
So you both seem to acknowledge that at least not everything on the planet was evil or wicked. You say that a lot of it was, or most of it, but not all of it. So even if there's just a few million that he killed, only a few million that were good, that ended up being why isn't that make him evil to kill those innocent people? I mean,
the Bible tells us
he has the power to blink out only the bad people, but somehow he swept everybody and all creatures along with it, even the good ones.
What good ones?
Okay, so you're saying everyone on the
people were good.
So you're saying everyone
to come
on the
to
planet,
to come to these messed up conclusions that they have, Neff, first you have to accept that animals have morals.
Yeah, and you also have to believe that man is good when the Bible tells us none is good. Every man is evil in his heart, he says, sinful ways.
That's
Rusted
actually Paul.
Blade. It's not so much that animals have morals. It's that God supposedly is moral, and yet
Jesus Christ said, "Why callest thee me thou?"
He inflicts all this suffering on animals who do feel suffering, who do feel harm.
God said, "Why callest thou me good? None is good except one, that is God." So he's saying, none of us are good. We all have inclination.
Yes, but I believe it was Thomas that
see.
called him. Wasn't it Thomas that called him good? I believe Jesus was making a point about
this. Of course he was.
Same with the same thing. That was the thing with but you know, he was saying because the Father in heaven has revealed this to you was where that ended up, right?
But the statement is quite clear. If you ask me, it's a statement that none is good, but God, none. That means no man is good.
Okay. Yeah, you still get that. Yep.
This is what's so interesting about this, because you guys can't be consistent amongst yourselves. Like the guy before said,
how can we not be consistent? I was at a disagreement with Neff, and I came into agreements with. I yielded and took correction.
The other guy.
Now we are consistent in that belief.
The other guy, when I asked him if what happens with the babies who get microwaved by their mom, he said that they go to heaven. So He just asserted that. So apparently
No,
we're not
wait a second.
all wicked.
What you're pointing to is that the fact that the Bible is 66 books. It's a tremendously large book. It talks about thousands of events, gives us hundreds of statements about things that are right and wrong, if not thousands, and lots. It teaches all kinds of wisdom and things that it's almost impossible for any one man to hold all of this knowledge in their head. So when you see Nightmare and me disagree with the thing, it's because neither one of us knows the Bible perfectly, and we're inclined towards that what we know and believe about it, but none of us know it 100%. I don't think it's possible for any human being to recite the entire Bible.
That alone,
you're talking
is that something that you would expect from an omniscient, all-powerful?
Why shouldn't we? He's given us a tremendous amount of knowledge to study and learn from.
So much knowledge that it's so conflicted.
Should we be able to?
30,000 denominations
No, it's not conflicted.
of Christianity alone.
That's explainable too, but that's the evil that Satan has done. That's not God's work.
Billions don't agree with you now. Billions.
Of course they don't.
Obviously, it's not clear enough. He could have done a better job. You have to.
Courteous being.
In your opinion, he could have done a better job. This is coming from a man who judges God as evil because.
Let's say let's hypothesize that atheists and evolutionists win their argument and homogenize the United States or what country. Who's next? Do we destroy the Indians' cultures as well? Do we beset upon them and reduce them? Do we demoralize and demonize them for their beliefs? And where does the atheistic imperialism end?
I don't know where you get that.
When they have total control over the world, and no one is allowed to question them.
Where do you get that I'm out to destroy anything or whatever? This is a matter. We're talking about what's true here. That's all we're talking about. Like justifications for belief.
Well,
we're not talking about destroying anything.
Are anti-theistic.
Well, I'm not. So, well, actually, I am an anti-theist, but it's not because I see the harm that religion brings. Not all of it. I am not necessarily against all. Like I'm not against Buddhism, for example, or people.
Buddhism is atheistic.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about like people who are like deists, people who are pantheists. The benign religions, the ones that don't.
Can you name some harms that Christianity brings?
Many. For example, just the Pope has indirectly killed millions of people in Africa by saying that condoms.
Catholicism. We're not. They're
not
Catholics,
okay.
we're
So
yes. I just want to make that clear. Yes.
So Catholicism is wrong. So which denomination is the correct one?
No. Yes.
I'm sorry, but
wrong,
which denomination is the correct one?
Protestant.
Okay. Do you all agree that Protestantism is the correct religion?
Yep.
No, there's no ism. It's just Christianity. There's no Protestantism.
See, what you have to understand is that the Roman Vatican, the Romans slaughtered the Christian. You're just refusing to acknowledge the history that is right in front of your face. The Romans slaughtered the Christians, and when they saw Christianity as something that could be used and utilized to their purpose and their benefit, they then created the Vatican, right? So you need to look at those and the history that's right in your face. They cross-pollinated Christianity with Romanism, right? With the Pope as God on earth. Caesar was recognized as God on earth, the people's God. And if you can't see that analogy, then you are willfully ignorant.
As Christians, I want to say something. As Christians, we're supposed to follow and live by the New Testament. Name one thing in the New Testament that's harmful to society. You keep speaking as if you're comparing Christianity to every other religion and saying, oh yeah, religion's just harmful in general. Okay, name one thing in the New Testament that's harmful to society.
The oppression of homosexuals, the
unnatural. It's unnatural.
Oh,
People
so
aren't
now
born gay.
nature.
There's a lot
So
of bad things.
nature.
There's a lot of bad things that come out of homosexuality. Do you want
Okay.
Nep to show you that list of he showed it the other day. I don't know the link, but there's a lot of bad things that come out of homosexuality, diseases, stuff like that.
And diseases don't come out of heterosexuals?
Yeah, handshaking is also unnatural. I mean, look at all the diseases that come out of handshaking, and people cannot reproduce if they shake hands. I mean, come on, handshaking is unnatural as well.
Wow, so now you're comparing handshaking to two guys doing it, right? That's pretty funny to me.
I'll tell you
Let's
what's
not get
funny
into
is
that,
this
because
idea
also
that
this,
nature
I'm
is the
uncomfortable
arbiter
with this.
of morality. Can somebody mute? Okay. This idea that nature is the arbiter of morality. So I mean, it's natural to rape. It's natural to kill and slaughter. Does that mean that we should all rape and slaughter because it's natural?
You choose it.
So then you have to agree that animals don't have morals.
I never said that they did. I think they're amoral.
So what's your problem with God having flooded the animals before the flood?
Because they feel harm, they feel suffering, and inflicting harm and suffering is immoral. I'm not saying the animals are immoral.
God's not
I'm
in our
saying
morals.
God was
So
immoral.
Are you arguing that human society should become vegetarian?
In an ideal world, yes.
In an ideal world, if
Yes,
you try
in
and
an
take my
ideal
meat
world,
away,
we would not.
if you try and take my right away to
Okay,
eat meat, I
Dr.
will
Peter.
fucking do you.
And it shows how disgusting your whole ideology and hypocritical it is. You know, you make yourself out to be this righteous guy on your high horse, and then you're so cavalier and callous about killing innocent animals for your personal pleasure. I mean, it's just, you know, I'm an
You eat
idiot
meat?
too. I'm a
Pleasure.
hypocrite.
Oh,
but
then you're in.
Please,
I am a hypocrite.
Please, just come to Australia, right, and look at the wildlife, look at the
Wait, man,
vegetation,
Thoreau.
and show what option there was other than to eat meat.
That's why I said in an ideal world. I'm not saying that animals don't need to be killed. I'm saying in an ideal world, this sort of carnage and consuming each other for sustenance.
Okay.
For
Read
nourishment
this for a second.
is
Hold on,
not
guys. Matthew 6:26 says, "Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they?" God does care for animals. Okay, but justice is justice. God's reason for doing things is bigger than what you want to imagine. So you point the finger at God and say He's evil. All right, are you evil for eating a cow or chicken or fish?
No.
God didn't eat them; He killed them.
I was entertaining your idea that this is all for the greater good. I have not said that necessarily that God is evil. What I was asking you was, how would you tell the difference? And you said you wouldn't be able to. So.
Neff did not say that.
He did say that.
What's your problem exactly with the flood? I don't understand.
He thinks God
What's
is
the
evil
problem?
for causing the animals to suffer for,
And
10
babies
minutes
and
while they,
children.
5 minutes while they drown to death.
Hold on. Who are you? Who are you to say that? Who are you, buddy? I don't understand.
Right.
You're
Who am
comparing
I?
yourself to God now? Yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Who are you to say that?
Who are you to say that Hitler was evil?
Wow, man. Dude, your
wow.
logic is so silly. I'm not even kidding you. You're comparing Hitler to God now. That's what you're saying. You're comparing yourself to God, bro. Who are you to say God
If
can't
you
do
compare
something?
the deeds, I would say that God's deed was worse than Hitler's by a long shot.
Dude,
Oh.
were you there?
How about you just forget the flood?
How do you know what kind of condition the pre-flood Earth was in?
All right, so we'll
Okay,
go
wait
under
a second.
the
Wait a second. Let me say
Yes,
something. Hold
if
on,
we
guys.
go
Hold
under
on.
this
Hold on.
crazy
No, here's the thing. See, the Bible tells us that everyone on the earth had become wicked before the flood. Okay. Now, let me explain something to you. Right? After the flood, God ordered the Israelites to destroy the people of Canaan because they were a threat to the Hebrews. Okay, and that would have, had the Hebrew people been wiped out, that would have put an end to God's plan of bringing Christ into the world through them. Okay. All right. Now. They were doing sacrificing babies in fire. Okay. Now, what do you think was happening on the earth before the flood? All manner of evil things. I can almost promise you that having sex with 7-year-old girls was commonplace. Okay? It was a despicably wicked, filthy place before the flood. Every man had turned his heart to do everything imaginable that God sees as abominable. I'm not talking about some of the people. Everyone was into these things. The world, the whole world, all the people of the world were about, there's about 250,000 or to a million people on the earth before the flood. And the whole culture was sick, twisted, and filthy beyond repair. Now you say, and the babies, okay? Well, consider, what happens to a child born into a society like that? Or they might be gang raped by men when they're 6 years old, taught to do sick things. Who knows what they would have been subjected to? Do you think maybe it's better? Do you think it's maybe better that that child? Hold on. Do you think maybe it's a bit more merciful that God would drown that child in a flood than have them live in 800 years? Because man lived a long time before the flood. See, 800 years. In enduring this kind of sin and producing this kind of sin that would be before God's eyes, and he would have to watch it and look at it and see it. No, you see, my friend, God didn't want to wasn't going to put up with a world like that, and he wiped it clean. He had every right to do it. He created it, and he had a right to put an end to it.
You forgot about the Nephilim.
To the guy that's,
I should also note that the demons came down from heaven and actually had sex with women and made half demon, half human children who were going around randomly murdering people.
Use choose it.
And so, yeah, there was a lot of demonic activity pre-flood that created Nephilim who were evil. And granted, Nephilimfree is probably just speculating based on, but I mean, given
the Bible says the hearts of every man was wicked before the flood. It was a decrepit place.
Can I just say
you can imagine how wicked it might have been if man lived 1,000 years. Man had 1,000 years to feed upon his filth in a small population of a million, less than a million. Look how filthy the world has become now, and there's billions of people in it. Imagine how wretched the world was after 900 years after God created it. It was despicable.
Can I just say something really quick? To the guy that's against the flood, picture yourself as a creator of something. You created a civilization. Do you not have the right? Isn't this logical? Do you not have the right to wipe them out at any second of your choosing if you were the creator of a civilization? Isn't that
you don't even have to go that
when
far.
I create a baby, if I'm not allowed to kill my kid or slaughter my kid or torture my kid simply
they weren't
because
God's children. They weren't God's children. We're not God's children until we're adopted by God.
He just said that God
He created them.
If someone creates this, doesn't he have the right to do blah blah blah? And I just answered his question.
Well, a creator, God has that right. Man doesn't have such a right. God does.
Again, Neff's description.
Until you accept him, you're not God's child.
I don't feel
we're
he
adopted
was
as
concerning
children
enough
of
of the
God.
pre-flood people. I think there were probably a lot worse than that, considering that God wiped out the Canaanites who were burning babies, like Neff said. Not only sex with 7-year-olds and teaching your children all manner of things. I would imagine that there was find somebody and burn them alive for fun day, about once a month. It had to have been at least that bad, based on the
see, God is worse than man, puppy. God is worse than man, but men throw babies into fire. I mean, God is worse than man. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. So the idea is back then, absolutely everything was some sort of Nephilim. Everything was some sort of evil.
Everything was corrupt.
Demonic thing.
Everything man thought of in his heart
not everybody was
to
necessarily a
Nephilim. No, but everything was corrupt. Every person was corrupt. Every person thought of doing evil things continually, the Bible says. Continually. That means a guy's reaping wheat in a field or plucking strawberries out of a field while he's working during the day. He's thinking, man, I can't wait to go to that child orgy tonight. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, okay?
Now, let me ask you then, if you're an omnipotent being, and you can change anything. You can change the hearts of man, like you said. Wouldn't it be a little more ethical, instead of like inflicting all that suffering, to just change the hearts of all these people that were supposedly evil? Wouldn't that be a little better?
I got something here. For example, 1 second before you answer it. Methuselah, one of the sons of Adam, one of the ancestors of Noah, died in the flood. Now you said all the people that died in the flood were demonic half-breeds and whatnot. And so you're saying that...
We didn't say all of them.
You said they were evil and that's why they died. I mean,
yeah, they're evil. They were evil.
So the ancestor of Noah is an evil, half demonic or something like that person that also deserved to die in the flood.
Noah and his family were the only exceptions. and one other, Lot.
And his grandfather...
The rest of the world was disgustingly corrupt.
And Noah's grandfather is not part of his family?
What's that?
Noah's grandfather, is he not part of Noah's family?
I mean Lot, not Lot, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about
Noah's grandson was part of his family, yes.
Grandfather.
Yes, the Bible doesn't provide us any information about it. It just says that God chose to save Noah and his family because they followed God, apparently.
So your grandfather is not part of your family?
They were not wicked like the rest of the world.
So Noah's grandfather is not part of Noah's family?
Why wouldn't he be? Sure he was. Doesn't mean that Noah had to be evil like his grandparents or his grandfather. Noah was chosen. Obviously, there's a reason. There was more than one reason, but at least that has to be considered as a reason, don't you think?
So he was born to evil grandparents.
He's favored.
So his grandparents were evil, and his parents were already dead at the time. And that's why his grandparents were not saved, because they were evil.
But do you think God doesn't know how to save mankind to start the world over again from a flood?
Personally, I think God
that he knows. Hold on, puppy. Do you think that he doesn't know to keep himself close, to keep someone close to him, so that he has the opportunity to repopulate the world, because he chooses to destroy it? Everything you're supposing is that God knows nothing. No, God knows everything. I'm sorry, puppy. What was that?
I linked the video, the little collaboration between you and Shock.
Yeah.
The opening credits say it involves Shock about the Nephilim that on YouTube. You could play that to clarify some of the stuff about that.
I created the video for him. Really, it was a gift to him. But I don't know that these people want to see that.
Well, the only question I would have, Puppy, to the Canaanites was that if their culture was so corrupt, why retain the young virgins to integrate them into your culture? I'm not saying that they,
because they followed God, and that's why they were virgins.
Say that again now. Sorry.
Actually, Nephilim, if you read over that part correctly, God commands the Israelites not to take any or spare any of them, right? So you're wrong in that assumption, right? They took the Canaanites into their bloodline in direct disobedience to God. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Now, when you read the Canaanite pantheon, I can offer you a link, right, to what we do know about the Canaanite pantheon, and what you have is Baal making an appeal to Asherah, right? Who then gives 5 of her sons, which Marduk is one of them, right, to rebel in the heavens against God, right, because Baal wanted a place to be worshipped just like God, right? Now, so what you see is an embellished version of the same story that's told in the Bible, where the fallen angels, right? So this idea of many gods is quickly dispelled, right, when you look at the biblical story and the Canaanite story. You see the rebellion, that the Canaanite pantheon does not dispel the rebellion against God that took place, and it's reflected again in the Greeks, right? And I've described and I have shown how the Greeks mythology is a mirror of the Canaanites, right? And you see how they portray Cronus as being an evil god, and Zeus led a mighty charge against Cronus, and and it just spirals out of control from there. So the Canaanites.
Yes, but the same thing happened to all the tribes of man. I mean, this kind of deception. The angels, created these themselves as